Welcome to the Haven Hubcast, a place to learn what business leaders, owners, and professionals are doing to navigate and grow in today's market. Hear from industry experts on everything from marketing, leadership, financing, and more. Brought to you by Haven, a co-working space where you can connect, create, and get stuff done.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Haven Hubcast. I'm your host, Nancy Sheed, and I am very excited to dive in today with our guest, Becca Feeley, and we are going to be talking about financial sense. Welcome, Becca.
Thanks for having me, Nancy. I'm excited to get a chance to do this.
So, Becca, your current role is the business development and kind of growth manager at Financial Sense, which is a family company. But can we take a step back and can you tell us a bit about your journey that got you into this role?
Yeah, of course. So, as you said, it's a family business. Funny enough, sort of my mom began the business in 1996, and her reasons for sort of leaving corporate America and heading off to kind of go out on her own and do her own thing are some of the very same reasons that I ended up joining her about 7 years ago. And that was that, she was tired of the grind, first of all, and second of all, feeling like she wasn't playing the role in her kids' lives that she wanted to be. So she was a banker. One of the clients of the bank kind of went to her with this need for personal financial management, household financial management, and offered to sort of financially back her to get this off the ground. And so she left her banking job of many, many years and decided to go out and on this adventure. And for that, very similarly, I, about 7 years ago, decided to do sort of the same thing. I've got 3 young kids at this point, and I find awesome working with my mom and the flexibility to spend some time with my kids. It's just a great combination for me.
I love that story. And so 25 years.
Yes.
Am I doing my math right? So happy 25, almost 26-year anniversary to Financial Sense. That's amazing.
Thank you.
I love your stories. Were you also in banking before you made this leap?
In a different way, yeah. I was an econ major in college, and I was working for a hedge fund in their sort of investor relations and marketing side of things. So that's why I was sort of uniquely qualified or felt confident coming into sort of a more business development type role here at Financial Sense with my mom, just because I had been client facing. And I like to think that, that speaking to customers is kind of one of my strong suits.
It's much more fun than debits and credits.
It sure is.
I can say that as a accounting major myself who now does marketing. So I get it. I totally get it. But I love that transition that you made. So Becca, you come to Financial Sense. Can you tell us a little bit about Financial Sense? It is a bookkeeping business, but it has a very special clientele, right?
That's true. Yes. I feel like, I spend more of my time saying what we're not than I do saying what we are. It's not, doing an elevator pitch is not an easy task, especially, in environments where you're only given 30 seconds. But yes, it's personal bookkeeping. In fact, there's now a national organization called the American Association of Daily Money Managers. So the new coined term for what we do is daily money management. And what it's not is business bookkeeping. And it's not wealth management in the sense of, investment advisory. What it is bill payment and tracking of inflows and outflows and analyzing cash flow so we can help our clients to understand where everything's coming from, where everything's going to, and is that sustainable or is it not? And if it's not, where, we can cut some corners to make it so that they're living within their means.
I love that. It sounds dreamy, even if I'm not a high net worth individual yet. I love that. So if I were to make an analogy, those of us who try and track all this stuff on Mint, right, in our own little world, you're dealing with much more complex systems, houses, people, flows of income, outflows of expenses. And you're the sort of grand central of, or financial sense is the grand central of keeping track of all that, as well as it sounds like managing and almost planning, but not in the sense of financial planning, if I understand correctly.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say, the Mint users of the world are, one portion of our clients, the people who, are well aware of how all of this works and they are simply short on time or, it's not fun stuff. Let's be honest. It's the kind of stuff, we can all clean our homes, right? But it doesn't mean that you get around to it as frequently as you wish that you did. And I think I can say, the vast majority of people who are good at keeping track of their finances probably find themselves ahead of April 15th, scrambling to get together the last, the information from the last 9 months because they were really good about it in February and March and April. And then things kind of fell by the wayside. So that's one chunk of people. And then the other and maybe bigger chunk of clients is people who, a lot of divorcees, a lot of widows, a lot of people who have found themselves in a position where they need to be in charge of the family finances and they have zero experience doing so. So, it's a bunch of people who didn't even know, what utilities they have, who are their vendors, who are they meant to pay, how much does it cost to run this household? Meanwhile, a lot of them are trying to raise young children and
right.
And it just becomes very complicated and very stressful. And it's, I think we're living in an environment where people are more willing than ever to identify the things that they are not skilled at and hire out for those services. I think that we used to be in a place where, everyone was like, I can do this. Right. And uniquely over the last couple of years, it's less that way. And more people are more willing to say, you know what, I'm really good at these things and I'm going to stay in my lane and I'm going to hire out for the rest.
The world is a great place when we're all operating from our strong points, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a great way to phrase it. So, Becca, if somebody is in that space, I mean, even if they've made the decision to come and work with you or, it's not their strength and they're going to work in financial sense, what are the sort of things they need to either get in order? What are the things you wish they had done or had known about? I'm looking, thinking about some sort of tips if somebody's like, all right, I'm probably going to call them, but my life and their life would be easier if, or do you say it doesn't matter, you can start from anywhere? I'm just curious what that sort of either onboarding or getting ready to work with you or get everything organized looks like.
Yeah. People typically think about calling us for a long time before they do, because exactly what I was talking about earlier, it's like you have this sense that, paying bills shouldn't be that hard and managing my household finances shouldn't be that hard. I can do this. And then month after month, it's not going well and late fees incur and credit scores plummet. And we understand that when the call is finally made, it comes from a place of stress usually. So I think that just naturally, my mom and I both have sort of a calming presence, but essentially what we say is, listen, prior to COVID, we would say, let's meet face to face, gather whatever paperwork, whatever outstanding bills, whether they're paid or unpaid, put everything in a messy pile for all I care, put it in a banker's box. We'll sift through it. We'll figure out, what's still due, what's been paid. And it doesn't need to be pretty or organized or, you don't really need to do anything to get going. You've called us for this purpose and we're going to get you organized. For that reason, we actually, once a client decides to come on board, we change the mailing address for all of these bills so that they don't pile up in the future. They come directly to our PO box or to an email address that we've set up for each of our clients. And that way, there's no stress like, oh my gosh, I have to scan this and I have to get this over to Financial Sense. Everything's coming directly to us, whether it's digitally or in physical form. So I think the reduction in paperwork brings a lot of peace to our clients.
I was going to say, is Marie Kondo? Paper and paperwork is like the least joy bringing thing in the whole world. What a gift. So I should have started with that. Like I'm just watching my shoulders sort of drop as you talk about, what that would feel like when you get to sort of hand all that over. I don't know. Are you total sideline? Anne, have you met Anne McGuire in Haven? I've interviewed for the podcast.
Yep, I know Anne very well. Actually, my mom and she and her sisters all went to Darien High School together once upon a time. So
Small
known her
world.
for a long time. Yeah.
So Anne does not the exact same thing, but brings a similar relief to people who, with regard to their medical bills and medical advocacy and, healthcare advocacy. And I think I have that same image of all that paperwork piling up that becomes overwhelming, and just what gifts your services bring to people.
It's interesting you say that, because Anne and we have several clients in common. Some of that is just by chance and some is by design, but it helps a lot to work in tandem with each other. Her taking care of the medical side and handing over, once she's reviewed and made sure that those bills are legitimate and that they should and need to be paid, giving us the green light to do so. So we work really well together, actually.
I love the Haven magic. Actually, it sounds like sounds like it was Darien magic before it was Haven magic. But tell me, our listeners, okay, so growing a small business, what does that look like for you now? Have you mentioned COVID and how you've had to change and pivot? What are some lessons or takeaways you've had in being a small business over the past couple of years?
I think in a lot of ways we were really lucky in that our business model has always been remote. It has been from the beginning of time. And other daily money managers who do this, what sets us apart, the factor that is the biggest difference between us and most others is that we use technology. We use Quicken software to track everything. We rarely see our clients face to face unless they want to. And that's been the way that we've done things since 1996. So what's really interesting is that we sort of had the infrastructure in place for that to begin with. And I think that was if anything, that prior to COVID was a factor that you needed to sort of explain to prospective clients when you were sort of being interviewed. And you would have to really prove to them that methodology works and is successful and is the most efficient way and therefore the least costly for the client. But now we're in a world, whether we like it or not, where, Zooming is just the way of life. And, we're kind of seem to be coming out the back end of this now, but seeing each other face to face was not really an option until recently. And I think along with that comes a comfort level for a prospective client out there to, rather than hear about a service from word of mouth from a good friend or something like that, people are far, far, far more willing to just hop on Google and do a search and find a service provider through an online search. So I think, from a business development perspective, I think it's more important now than ever to be focusing on your digital presence and your content that you're putting out there. And because that's, I think, the future of bringing on new clients.
Interesting. First of all, there might still be somebody in our house that pays by check. I'm not going to name names, and it's not me. But I think that's wonderful that you didn't have to pivot and that being online actually was put you ahead of the game. But really curious to hear that people, will find you for a Google search, as you said, without referring, seeing as this is such a personal business, right? Like this is really personal. You really get as well as secure and private, right? Like you have access to their livelihood. How are there ways that you have to, or questions or things in place for people who are worried about security or worried about, kind of handing over the reins? Or is the relief just so great that, you have the proven track record?
Yeah. Well, I think early on, in March of 2020, it became clear pretty quickly that we really needed like a Zoom subscription, for instance. Just seeing our faces, even if it's behind a computer screen, and knowing that it's me shoulder to shoulder, literally facing the same camera, my mother and myself telling you, we've been doing this for 25 years. We will give you 3 phone numbers of, clients who have sort of similar circumstances as your own. So you could really ask them questions about how things work and whether they've been happy or not. So yes, I mean, to a certain extent, there is a little bit of like, proving that we need to do. But honestly, it's shocking how quickly some people are willing to say, you know what, this sounds great. Let's get started. What do we have to do? Do you need my login credentials for my financial institution? I mean, it depends on the personality, but I think you'd be shocked at how many people are willing to just, for lack of a better term, give away the keys to the kingdom.
Okay. I have to ask, is it generational? Do you see sort of and I ask only reflecting on what goes on in my household, like the younger people are in our house, the more happy they're like, yeah, you can have this. So you can access, versus the older crowd in this household would never in a million years let you know what a password was. So I'm curious.
I think there is definitely something to that. As we're talking, I'm thinking about the couple of clients who have been most willing. And I would say those are the ones who are, in their 40s, maybe early 50s, are, peak career, just the super, super busy people who don't have time to like, I think it might literally be a time constraint. It's like, we needed to get this started yesterday, and whatever I have to do to get going here.
Exactly. Let's go. Well, I thank you for the dive into your business and learning more sort of where things are in your space, and how, like I said, you're bringing such a gift of relief, a relief from the stress of the overwhelm and, of the unknown. And I would say probably in the end, saving them money ultimately for, the return on that investment is probably a great one, all things considered, between the time and stress and money. So it's just a super gift.
Thanks. I think so.
Becca, how did you, we just talked about Anne, who we've talked to, who is another Haven member. How did you find out about Haven, or how has Haven been part of your business growth as well as Financial Sense's business growth, or just, in terms of being an asset or support for you?
Well, you can only hear good things about something so many times before you decide to investigate for yourself. The nail in the coffin, I guess, so to speak, was a part-time employee of ours, Kristen McGarry, who said, you really should go check out Haven. She, I guess, has known Felicia for a long time. And so, I booked an appointment. We went in. Come to find out, she's a Union College alum, as am I.
No way.
Yeah. So, talking about the Haven magic, but it is alarming how many little small world connections that, go on in the workspace during the salons, and even just kind of sitting at the table in the kitchen area, getting work done, and you get introduced to someone by Felicia, who is like the connector of all connectors.
Absolutely.
And you find out, this other mom's got twins too. I've got twins. Maybe I can give her some of my stuff that I don't need anymore.
Right.
It's just on a personal level and on a business level. It's if you were to do a Google search and see that Haven is a co-working space, I think that decided not to investigate it further for that reason, I think you'd really be missing out, because it's not a co-working space. It's so much more than that. And I've really developed a lot of wonderful professional and personal relationships out of my membership. So
love that.
It's been awesome.
Love that. Well, I hope to see you in person, not online, not virtually, soon at Haven.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, for people who are interested in connecting with you or learning more about Financial Sense and your business, what is the best way for them to find you?
Well, we have our website, financialsense.net. Otherwise, you can just reach out directly. My email address is rebecca.feeley@financialsense.net, and I'm monitoring it all the time.
Perfect. We will put that in the show notes and make sure people know how to connect. Well, thank you, Rebecca. This was really enlightening. I'm excited to learn more about this business and know that you exist. So for people who need your services, I now know where to point them.
That's great. Appreciate it, Nancy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Haven Hubcast, a place to learn what business leaders and owners are doing to navigate and grow in today's market. Please leave a review on Apple Podcasts and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Haven is a co-working space and virtual community located in the heart of Fairfield County, Connecticut. Haven is a hub for business owners and professionals to connect, create, and get stuff done. Find out more about the Haven community online at haven.com. That's HAYVN.com. Haven Hubcast is produced by Sound Advice Strategies.